Greetings, Microscopist. This is Eric Miller from Instructinate, and today we're looking at a fairly modern film which has been requested, Prometheus from 2012. This, as many of you may know, is a prequel to the 1979 movie Alien, and while it had mixed reviews upon its release, and after watching it for this review I'm not a big fan of it either, it does have some electron microscope action that we can check out. So some nerds find some cave drawings that take them to some crazy planet in the middle of nowhere. It's 2094 when they finally show up, and they look around, they find an alien head, and blah blah blah. Anyway, Michael Fassbender walks out of the lab and he passes a transmission electron microscope smack in the middle of this hallway. What the what? And Charlize Theron, is that your microscope? Anyway, a minute later, this same microscope is mysteriously transported to an actual laboratory and is being used by Noomi Rapace's character. She's looking in the eyepieces and doing some crazy laser things and reading alien DNA or something. And that's about it. I mean, except later on in the movie, we see the TEM sitting in the background during this scene. So let's start over and examine what we can see here. First off, this hallway is about the worst placement of a TEM I've seen since Spider-Man, or Doomsday Machine, or Bioshock 2. I mean, this literally makes no sense why it is sitting in this hallway. Ludicrous. But we do get a decent look at this thing. First off, these two light-up screens on the side are set dressing and not part of the original instrument. Also, it's missing its covers for the vacuum system in the back here, but that's fine. Now, I don't know what the exact model is, but the shape of this cover over the fishbowl is very distinctive and tells me that this instrument was made by JEOL, or Japan Electron Optics Laboratory, which is one of the two Japanese manufacturers of electron microscopes. Now, on a real cover, it says JEOL on it, but on this one, it appears the art department has decorated it with what appears to be a Wayland Corporation logo on it, which would be a nice touch. Now, like I said, I'm not sure on the model, but if I had to guess, I would say it was maybe a JEM 1200 something or 1400, likely from the 1990s, maybe early 2000s vintage. This is definitely a 100 or 120 kilovolt instrument that maybe was decommissioned and bought for parts. It's not doing anything here in the hallway, so let's take a look at the next scene. So first off, nothing that we see taking place here makes literally any sense. These lasers are not a thing that happens inside the TEM. The TEM also does not map DNA, alien or otherwise. So what is all happening inside this thing? Well, let's walk through all the parts of the TEM fishbowl. First, we have the phosphorescent screen at the bottom. Electrons are shot out of the gun. They pass through the sample sitting in here and hit this screen and excite the photons. So bright areas of the screen show where the sample is very thin, while dark areas are where it's very thick. So what is this thing with the lasers shooting out of it? This part is actually called the beam stop. So one of the cool things that a TEM can do is to create a very small focused beam which will shoot through a crystalline sample, and as the beam passes through the organized atoms of that crystal, it will split up into multiple little spots in a pattern. By using the shape of the pattern and the ratios of the distances between the spots, you can determine the type of crystal that it is and its orientation. So what does that have to do with the beam stop? Well, when you switch the microscope into this diffraction mode, the beam makes a very bright spot on the screen, and if you leave it there long enough, it will burn a permanent spot onto the screen. You can just see a slightly burned area here in this older screen. So to keep that from happening, you move the beam stop to block the central stop from burning your screen. As a result, you'll always see the beam stop present in diffraction micrographs from older analog instruments. Most newer instruments will not have a beam stop because they probably don't even have this phosphor screen or even a fishbowl to stick your face into, since it will all be done via digital cameras. Now there's this other little round thing sitting in the back of the chamber here that we can see. What this is a small phosphor screen that you would use for focusing. Other types of TEMs might have a square section in the center of the main phosphorescent screen that will pop up that you can focus on. But in this case, you will have this small circle. So why is it here? Well, this creates an area that the image can be projected onto that is perpendicular to the binoculars. So these binoculars are here to do fine focusing on the image. They're like tiny little telescopes that allow you to look at the image very, very closely. However, the main screen is not perpendicular to these binoculars, and if you look at it with the binoculars, the whole image won't be in focus due to the short depth of field you'll likely have. But this little circle pops up perpendicular to the binoculars, so focusing is a go. Anyway, once we all know all of that, this scene now looks utterly, completely ridiculous. I mean, what are these lasers? Why is the beam stop doing that? Why is she even using these binoculars? None of it makes any sense. So what do I think about this TEM in this movie? It is terrible. The microscope is in stupid places, doing stupid things, and is in no way representative of any real electron microscope. This might even be the worst microscope I've reviewed so far, even worse than the one in Spider-Man, because at least there, the microscope didn't do anything. I'm done with this movie, but if you're interested in the latest electron microscopy news or SEM training, check out Instructinate.com and drop me an email. Thanks, this is Eric Miller, and we'll see you around the lab.